Hello, a very good evening and welcome to Fact Sheet live on ETV Ghana, also live on Nisim in Tamale, Nisim in Bolgatanga. We're also live on Facebook. You can go search for ETV Ghana. We are streaming live over there. Tonight, our conversation will be centering around the rearrest of Aisha Huang, who in 2017 was arrested for involving herself in illegal small-scale mining as of the time. Now, somewhere in 2018, she was deported back to China. Eyebrows were raised as to why the country sidestepped laws that had been implemented to deal with people who were found culpable of engaging themselves in illegal small-scale mining in the country. But there were justifications as of then, back then, where the then senior minister, Osafo Mafo, at a forum, at a town hall meeting somewhere in April 2019, justified that Ghana has a good relationship with a country that Aisha Huang was coming from, and it will not inure to the benefit of the bilateral relationship that Ghana had as of that time with China if Aisha Huang was to be jailed in Ghana. And he was arguing that all the monies that the country needed for its infrastructural development was as of that time coming from China in the form of the Sino-Hydro deal. Now, later that year, president of the country, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, at a forum outside the country, was a bit bitter about the way that Aisha Huang was treated, not necessarily because she was deported, but he stated emphatically that with hindsight, he is a bit worried with the way the issues were dealt with. And I think he was saying that in a sense of the fact that the president, as of that time, had vowed to deal with people or miscreants who were involving themselves in illegal small-scale mining, which as of that time was messing up our forest, degrading our forest and other vegetative cover, and also messing up our water bodies in the country. About 2 days ago, news went live that Aisha Huang, after being deported in 2018, had found her way back into the country. Now she came bigger. She came with a lot more than what she was doing back then in 2017. Now, different tabloids, different newspapers, different news portals in the country have been carrying this headline for the past 2 days. From what we understand, she was arraigned before a court, and the prosecutor mentioned or suggested, prayed the court that Aisha Huang, including 3 others who were apprehended by the police for indulging themselves in illegal small-scale mining, be detained for the appropriate agencies to continue the conduct of its investigations. So tonight, we ask a very critical question as to how she was able to come back into the country. Is another issue to be discussed later on. But what does this really mean to manning the borders of this country? What does this really mean to dealing with people who can enter into the country just like that and move out just like that? What are the security implications? Because we've been in this country where a lot of security analysts have raised concerns with regards to how our borders are managed. In retrospection, with how volatile the security situation is within the West African sub-region. We'll deal with that matter, and also we'll deal with as to whether indeed we have come far when we speak about the fight against illegal small-scale mining in the country. Have we won the fight? Or we are still fighting that particular canker? These questions will guide our discussions for tonight, and you can be a part of the conversation. You can go onto our Facebook live stream, leave your comment over there. I'll gladly read that for you. And also send a text if you wish to do that. Let's go for a breather. When we return, I'll introduce to you my guests who will help us deal with the issues at hand, and then we set the ball rolling. Many thanks for staying on with us. This is Fact Sheet live on ETV Ghana, and I am Sifa Dankwa. Let's deal a bit with the facts before I go on to introduce my guest who help us deal with the matter. In 2017, Aisha Huang was arrested and arraigned and charged for undertaking illegal small-scale mining operation contrary to Section 99, subsection 1 of the Minerals and Mining Act of 2006, Act 703, among other charges, and subsequently she was deported in 2018. Now, in the latest issue, Aisha is facing trial again over charges of engaging in sale and purchase of minerals without license, as well as mining without license. Now, let me take you to some of the statements that were made in 2019, 2018, when the issue became rife that a foreigner was engaged in illegal small-scale mining in the country. The sort of arguments that were proposed as of then in favor of Aisha Huang, that's after her deportation from the country. Then Senior Minister Osafo Mafu stated this. So we have a very good relationship with China, the main company that is helping us develop the infrastructure system in this country is Sinohydro. It is a Chinese company. It is the one that is going to help us gain billions to build our infrastructure. But the president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and I quote him, he says that I think the decision to deport Aisha Huang, in hindsight, was a mistake. And that was why that process and procedure is being stopped. So as of that time, the president stated that if you're a foreigner and you're being found engaging yourself in illegal small-scale mining, the law must deal with you. Let's go to the phone lines and start our conversation with Mr. Adib Sani, who's a security and international relations expert. And also later joining us will be Mr. Godwin Ama, who is the National Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners. Mr. Adib, good evening.
Good evening, my brother.
I believe that you're well.
Very well, thank you.
My first question will be, is the president justified when he mentioned that the way and manner in which Aisha Huang, when she was arrested in 2017, the way and manner the issue was dealt with was not right?
Absolutely. It was very obvious from the onset that this was a woman deemed to be above the law. Indeed, this issue came up, we all spoke about it. It wasn't just local news, but it was international as well, because we had the then senior minister on a trip abroad positing that arrest is not going to bring any benefit to Ghanaians, so why the need? And so that consolidated people's opinions and perceptions about whether indeed this lady was above the law or would be prosecuted according to the law. There are Ghanaians living in Chinese jails. They say once you are in Rome, you do as the Romans do. And I'm wondering whether we have an extradition treaty with China. But like I indicated, there are Ghanaians living and serving their time in Chinese jails. So why couldn't we have prosecuted her here and make her face the full rigors of the law here. So from the onset, you would realize, even though some tried to prove otherwise, the very best they can, but it was quite obvious that there was no commitment to ensuring that she's held to account for her actions. So in the first instance, her so-called deportation was a non-starter. It was a mistake. It shouldn't even have happened in the first place. But today, here we are.
Now, the next question, and we'll focus a bit more on the submission that you've made. The next question that I would want to ask you will be how you feel or how you felt about the way we dealt with Aisha and Huang when she was arrested in 2017, the justifications that were given as to why there wasn't any need to let due process take its course, and how you feel that in any way could have impacted on the fight against illegal small-scale mining.
Well, my opinions about the manner in which the whole issue was addressed hasn't changed. It was sluggish. It was filled with mediocrity. And I think largely there was a bit of complicity in the whole matter. I find it unfortunate because I think Ghanaians don't understand what opinion these people have about Africa or perhaps Ghana. They think we are a banana republic. They think we are a lawless country. Once you have money, you can do whatever you like and get away with it. Because trust me, if Aisha one had known for a fact that we are not animals, we are human beings with laws, okay, she wouldn't have dared return after what had happened in the past. So you see, they have total disregard for the laws of the country. And I cannot completely blame them. I can't. I blame the authorities who are supposed to ensure the right thing is done. Because if you had prosecuted her, I'm not sure this would have happened. And I'm wondering whether her deportation in the first instance involved some diplomatic work between Ghana and China. If indeed that went into the deportation, then I'm sorry to say, the Chinese government hasn't helped. This is based on the premise that her deportation was known and perhaps agreed upon between the two countries. Because if you engage yourself in criminality in one country, that is not your home country, and you are transferred or extradited to your home country, you are supposed to face the music. If you are serving a term, let's say 10 years in that country, but you were able to clock 2 and it's left with 8, even if you are moved to your country, you are not set free. You are supposed to serve the remaining term. So I would have expected that the Chinese authorities would take the matter up and make sure she faces the music. But I'm sure when she got to the airport, welcome home with flowers, and that is it. So we are part of the problem for allowing her to go in the first place. Almost every day, you see the media covering stories of persons arrested, particularly Chinese, at mining sites. We see the stories day in, day out. Do you follow up to find out what has happened to those cases? On this date, you arrested that person? What happened to the case? And I can tell you confidently, based on my observation, news reports and all that, about 90% of those arrested are let go in the end.
About 90% of the people arrested found culpable of involving themselves in illegal small-scale mining are let go.
Absolutely, particularly the Chinese. Ask yourself, you can go online. This is a research anyone can conduct, okay? Go online, constrict your search, to the past maybe 6 years when the massive operation anti-Galamsey started, okay, and count the number of cases we have recorded involving persons arrested, particularly Chinese. And after that, search for the number of prosecutions, and you'll be amazed.
Now, you mentioned that in the case of Aisha Huang, there probably might have been some diplomatic blip. How do you, what do you think probably might have caused that? Did you feel because of the interest that Ghana had as of that time in Sino Hydro, I mean, acquiring those loans? That could have been one of the reasons.
You see, the thing is, we cannot sell Ghana. Ghana is the only country we have, okay? And I always tell my, friends, I'm like, this security analysis thing I'm doing, it's not like I don't love money. I love money, just like any other individual. But I would never, ever sell my principle because I would prefer being a hungry free man to being a well-fed slave. I would prefer not having the money, yet come on ETV and say it as it should be said, to taking some peanuts, some pittance, and coming to talk to you like a robot. We need to have principles. I'm not sure because of Aisha Huang, that single person, which everybody knows is engaged in illegality, and the Chinese know that also, would cause us to miss out on whatever loan it is we are going for. If it is, so be it. But if you go without principles, you can imagine how you are viewed. After the meeting, you leave, the things they would say about you as individuals, not even people representing Ghana. You see? So we need to be careful in this country, to be honest with you, because what has happened is an indictment on particularly even the security services. When it comes to border security, the GIS is involved, customs, police, military, even national security operatives. So her ability to, so to speak, outsmart all of these security services, not just that, operate in plain sight, obtain Ghana card, being such a big public figure, for want of a better word, we are not able to detect. How can we detect the terrorists who are more difficult to even detect? I am a worried man, to be honest with you.
You are worried, but because of our inability to manage our borders properly?
It is always, yes, obviously it is. But I am more worried that an individual like Aisha Huang, who is well known, in fact, she's a celebrity, so to speak, in Ghana, is able to come into the country and operate for months, that is, if not years, and nobody was able to tell. That makes me very, very worried, because recently I spoke about the fact that over 200 Ghanaians were recruited to join terrorist groups. And these are people we know and they know. You see, these are people who live with us. They are recruited, they are trained, they return to our communities. They are not strangers. So you look at his face and say that, hey, we wait there on free her. No, they are our siblings. Okay, how can we detect? That is even more, laborious to do. How much less Aisha Huang? That is what makes me worried, because I mean, I don't want to say some things to create panic, okay? But the truth is, this should be a rude awakening. It should go beyond just us wanting Aisha Huang to be prosecuted. We need to use this as an opportunity to look into the issue of border security, of homeland security, get to identify the lapses and get solutions. Because for now, I am not a happy man, like I indicated.
How surprised were you when you heard that Aisha Huang had returned into the country and was involved in a trade for which she was deported?
I was shocked. I was shocked. I was shocked to the marrow because I I was wondering why and how that can happen.
Mm.
And for your information, I thought it was fake news.
You thought it was fake news when you heard it?
Trust me, I thought it was fake news. Then the media started calling. I was wondering what's going on. Is it a different person? Only for me to get to know that it was that uh, same Aisha one. So I'm really quite surprised.
What should this what should this tell us about? I mean, we've had conversations with you, and you've expressed worry about the way that we've been managing our borders for some time now, and also the fact that within the West African sub-region, security seems to be very volatile. There've been news reports or rumors going around that some terrorists are trying to get into the country to cause harm or to cause havoc to the people. And I'm not trying to hit the security port as we speak now, but from where you stand, do you feel that going forward we would be able to indeed manage our borders well? And as you mentioned, if Aisha Huang's case is to be a test case for us in terms of border management?
Well, I mean, it is not new news. Our borders has always been a problem. For example, in 2019, according to WANEC, between Ghana and Burkina Faso, there were about 200 illegal routes.
Mm.
And I spoke to some friends there who told me that might even be a conservative figure, and that it could even be more. You know, there are footpaths. You just walk across into Burkina, walk across into Ghana without anybody asking you for passport or anything like that.
Mm.
The same can be said about the border with Togo. Okay, um, I'm even picking up new information about smuggling activities within that same area, particularly fuel smuggling, fuel coming from Nigeria. Then it's being based, like the central retail points being Burkina Faso.
Mm.
Then they buy the fuel and use motorbikes to transport it into Togo and into Ghana, and it's an issue. I cannot let it all out, but it's an issue we really have to look at seriously.
Mm.
Boku is still on fire, so to speak, considering its proximity to Togo in the east and Burkina in the north.
In the north.
And do you know, look, Boku is closer to Niger and Benin than it is closer to Accra.
Mm.
Yes, so a lot of the refugees are running towards that side. We don't even have proper figures with respect to people crossing the border into Ghana and all that. There's a National Boundaries Commission that has been put in place, and they are also doing a great deal of job. But I think there's a lot more to be done. We need to be strategic in our efforts. We need to, there are so many things to do. I'm coming from the area not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are so many things we can do. One of it being to integrate national security with the local security. A lot of the communities, when you go, they look at your face, they know you are not from here. If you are from here, they can, if you are from there rather, they can tell which house you are from. Okay. So when I was going, I had to disguise myself, and but still they were able to figure out. So if we have that system in place and so many other systems and link it with national security so they can collectively work together, I think that would help. Because when you send security agents from Accra to, let's say, Tumu, they might not understand the environment there like the people who are there. You are a stranger also. So it becomes difficult. But when we involve the communities, I think to a large extent it can help.
That's one of the solutions. Quickly before we wrap up with you, will be the question of as to whether indeed we've seen the illegal small-scale mining, popularly known as Galamsey, as a real security threat, and that we probably would have to invest much more into dealing with the matter. Now, there are a couple of people within the space of small-scale mining who believe that we have not gone anywhere when it comes to dealing with the issue of Galamsey, irrespective of the government's pledge to deal ruthlessly with the issue. What is your take on our fight against illegal small-scale mining?
We need more commitment. A lot of work has been done, but most of it is militarized in nature. But we need to deal with so many other issues because the problem is multidimensional. It is bigger than we think. So when I hear people say, let's go and dismantle them, let's get them out of the pits, let's do this, let's do that. For your information, I've been there to the area. Some of them make as much as 2,000, 3,000, even 5,000 cedis on daily basis. Okay? So if you are throwing them back into the streets, what are you doing? You might be creating a problem in an attempt to solve a problem. Do we have a backup? No. Do we have any financial incentive, economic incentive to boost perhaps business activities in the area? No. A lot of landlords depend on Galamseyers because they pay their big rents. A lot of businesses are flourishing because of the Galamseyers. That is not in any way supposed to rationalize. I can never rationalize. No well-meaning Ghanaian can rationalize Galamsey. We need to look at the nuances, okay? Youth unemployment is a major issue. You don't have any plan. Just go like, oh, we don't want you there. That's it. And are you aware that almost every Galamsey site has a gun? At least, because they rob one another. Okay, so they have guns. Most of the guns are unregistered. What happened to those guns? So if I hold a gun at a Galamsey site, and now you are kicking me out of that site, and I'm home with the gun, would I just put it on the bed or the display cabinet and be staring at it? It could be put into another use, even if it has to be robbery. So we need to really look at the nuances. There's also talk about complicity and all that. I think we need to have strong commitments, especially on the part of the political class. Unfortunately, you have politicians very much involved. The one supposed to stop it is involved. How is that possible? How is he going to stop it when he is involved? A woman's organizer had her excavators even bent. It became a serious party issue. So without that commitment, trust me, we'll be on a wild goose chase. People arrested must be dealt with because the impunity is too much. Excavators are seized. They are put at the police stations. The next minute is out, back at the pits. So I think we know what to do. But I think most of the issue for now has to do with commitment, which I must say is lacking to a large extent.
Mm. A texter just sent in this message, and before you go, he's asking if something is to be done to Aisha 1 as we speak now. How do you think the country must deal with this current issue? Bearing in mind that there is a possibility, if indeed she is to be set free, there is a possibility of her returning into the country. How must the state deal with Aisha 1 in this particular case?
As the law prescribes, as simple as that. As the law prescribes, the right thing must be done. What does the law say? Okay? You need to investigate. You need to put her before a competent court of jurisdiction. If found guilty based on the evidence that will be provided, and of course, her defense and all that, then so be it. This is no rocket science. The head and tail of it is for the right thing to be done. And trust me, Galamsey would end.
Mr. Adib Sani, thank you very much for joining us this evening on Fact Sheet. He's a security and international relations expert joining us via phone there. Let's go for a quick break. When we return, Mr. Godwin Ama, who is the National Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners, will join us also via the phone line. The conversation will be around as to whether indeed we've won the fight against illegal small-scale mining. There were times that were presented with samples of water from some of the rivers that were earlier polluted. There were talks about the fact that we were indeed winning the fight against illegal small-scale mining. How is the situation now as we speak now, given the fact that Aisha 1, who was arrested in 2017 for involving herself in illegal small-scale mining, has been found again to be involving herself in illegal small-scale mining? Are we still battling with the issue on the ground? Those people on the ground, small-scale miners, will be able to tell us. Let's go for a breather. When we return, we engage them. With us, this is Fact Sheet live on ETV Ghana, also live on Nisim in Tamale and Nisim in Bolgatanga. And for those of us who are watching us live on our social media feed, thank you very much for also sending in your contributions and your comments onto the show. Let me quickly go into the comments before we try to establish contact with Mr. Gordon Amao, who is the National Secretary for the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners. This one says that I'm sure one leader is sponsoring what this woman is doing in the country. If not, so this thing would have stopped long time ago. That's from Ima. Adoset also says that Adoset seems to be believing that she's been sponsored by some big hands or some big people within the country. She says she must be imprisoned. Why should a foreigner come here and do what she want and will be left to go scot-free? This one is coming from Kwame Tuahene. Tuahene also mentions that the security agencies are not doing their job well, especially those at the borders, because our borders have been porous for a very long time. That's why Aisha 1 could get into this country without being spotted. But one contributor raises a very critical issue having to do with the factors that led to Aisha 1 being deported back to China. Are the factors still relevant in the scheme of things? The factor being that we have a very, very good bilateral relationship with the Chinese people and the fact that we were going to them for loans. Is that still relevant in this particular case? And people are also asking questions as to whether indeed the state will be able to find evidence beyond reasonable doubt to ensure justice is delivered in this particular case, because we were in this country in 2018, the state filed for a nolle prosequi. They discontinued the case that they had a court with regarding Aisha Huang, and she was let go, or she was deported back into to China. Is it going to be the same this time around? There is a statement coming from the Attorney General's office, and lawyer Godfred Dame, the Attorney General, says that all the previous misdemeanors of Aisha Huang are going to be revisited, and if they found probable cause for prosecution, they will obviously, or the state will obviously take that matter up and ensure that justice is delivered in this case. What we are looking for as a state is, this time around, people who are dealing or people who are handling this particular matter will not sidestep the laws, but rather ensure the laws of the land take their course and ensure justice is delivered in this particular matter, to serve as a deterrent to people who are harboring the idea of coming into the country to indulge themselves in illegal small-scale mining in Ghana here. Not just for the purposes of them making their money, but also degrading our natural resources and our vegetation and our water bodies in the country beyond a rate where it will be difficult for us to actually resuscitate them. But the small-scale miners, some of them in the country, are saying that when it comes to the fight against illegal small-scale mining in the country, the government has failed woefully. They believe that whatever was done to fight illegal small-scale mining was a camouflage, and the real deal is or are in the forest, and that if indeed the government wants to fight illegal small-scale mining, we should go rather into the forest to go and deal with that. Unfortunately, we failed to reach Mr. Godinama, who happens to be the National Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners. I am hopeful that some other time on any of our shows on ETV Ghana and on Happy 98.9 FM, we will have him and also engage him on some of these issues that are being raised by a cross-section of the Ghanaian population. And that's how we wrap up on tonight's edition of Fact Sheet live on ETV Ghana, which was also live on Nisim in Tamale Nisim in Bolgatanga, and also live on social media platforms ETV Ghana. I am Sefa Dankwa. Good evening.